Well, good morning, everybody. Hello, Buff Nation, and welcome to our Coaches Zoom. Today, we're going to keep it in the athletics world, as the internationals would say, and visit today with men's and women's distance and cross-country coach, Jake Krolick. Jake's in his third year at West Texas A&M. During that time, the Buffaloes men's team has won 3 consecutive LSC cross-country championships, and that runs their record to 7 straight LSC titles. Jake came to WT after 2 seasons as the distance coach at Texas A&M Commerce. Prior to that, he competed as a student athlete at Edinburgh University in Pennsylvania while studying math education. He also competed during that time in the NCAA cross-country meet 3 times. Krolick then went on to compete at Adams State as a graduate student while working on his master's degree in athletic coaching. Good morning, Jake. Thanks for joining us today. First, tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, outstanding job over at Texas A&M Commerce, but we're glad to get you out of East Texas and out here in the sunny prairies out west. Just give us your background. You're not a native Texan, but you've acclimated pretty well.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say it, but yeah, I'm a Yankee. I'm from Buffalo, New York area, so hopefully I don't lose some fans right there. So some people might have just stepped out of the room after hearing that. But no, from New York originally, big Bills and Sabres fan. But I got my running start at some local 5K races, and eventually started up a cross country program at my high school, Pioneer High School in Yorkshire, New York. And so that was kind of my first introduction to what cross country was. I really had no clue back in 2006 what cross country was, but I knew it involved running. So one of my gym teachers and track coaches, we got a cross country team started. So that was my introduction into it. And next thing I know, I'm trying to find out where the Sunday long run is with the other top runners in our area. And went from there, essentially. Started running every day. Fortunately led me to going to Edinburgh as a walk-on, and fortunately went there, and it was the perfect fit. Great coach with Coach Doug Watts there, and learned a lot there. And my experiences there in developing, I wanted to become a coach, and went on to Adams State to learn from Coach Martin and Coach V Hill there, and figure out why they'd won 50 national titles there. So it was a great decision to go over there. Kept on running, and then I got into coaching. Ended up volunteering for a year at Edinburgh. Went over to Pfeiffer University in North Carolina for a year. They finally paid me over there, so that was awesome. And then landed a job at Texas A&M Commerce, and spent 2 years there. And we had some good success there. And when Coach Flowers took the job at UTRGV, he recommended me to Coach Stu for the opportunity to come over and lead the cross country and distance crews over here at WT. So it was kind of a sore subject over at Commerce when I left and made the jump over. As they looked at me like a little bit of a traitor, but I was like, this is too good to be true. So I was very, very fortunate to get that opportunity, and it brings us to today. 3 years later, still here, and still believing that was definitely the right move when that happened. So.
Now, when you came to WT, you mentioned Darren Flowers. He did a great job of laying the foundation, starting the track and field program, as well as continuing the cross-country program. It wasn't like you had to come in and rebuild, but you have not just maintained, but you've elevated the program since.
Yes, definitely not an easy task to follow someone like Coach Flowers. There's definitely high expectation. Whenever you follow someone like Coach Flowers, I've seen that in other positions across the country, taking over for somewhat of a legend, someone that really kicked things off. So, but what made it really easy was that I had current athletes on the team, parents, coaches reaching out to me to take the job at WT. So it was a very easy decision, knowing that I was kind of being pursued and being welcomed with open arms. So made it a very easy decision to come over here to WT. So.
Now, before we move on, I'll lay out the ground rules for those who are joining us for the first time. We're open to questions for Coach Krolick. If you've got a question, just raise your hand, give a little wave, and we'll get you involved. Jake, you like I say, you've been here 3 years. Tell us a little bit, some of the outstanding student athletes you've had. 2017, your first year here, and Jake Henda was an All-American and actually WT's first All-American, winning the cross-country title and then placing, I believe, 40th at the national event. But you've had more than just one outstanding athlete in those last 3 years.
Yes, so I'll talk about the men's side a little bit first. And came in here, had a great group that I had nothing to do with in bringing to WT. But Owen Hind was one of those guys that I'd had to coach against the previous year at A&M Commerce. So was very much looking forward to working with him. And that fortunately went very well. When you get an athlete who's very successful like that, you gotta hope they buy in. And that really sets the tone. So Owen was a very big piece to me coming to WT. He reached out to me, and I knew right then that we were going to have a good thing going here. So working with Owen, Jeffrey Kipchumba was actually the first All-American, so I had him for one more year. And so I mean, those guys got them rolling, and we had some good supporting cast, a freshman in Briggs Whitlake. So yes, Owen went on and got All-American that year, and that kind of set the tone moving into year number 2. Where Briggs kind of took over, and Briggs was All-American in our second year here working together, made a big jump for us. And the team went on and finished top 15 both of those first 2 years. And then in the third year, we brought in Ezekiel Kipchurcher, and he ended up having the highest finish ever this past fall with a 12th place finish. And the boys had their highest ever team finish with a 10th place finish. So that was a big step forward for us this year. Great seeing Zeke come through, and we got him for one more year here still have Briggs going as well. So we're really looking forward to what the future holds. On the ladies side, Nicolina Hrelitz, she was awesome for us. She's been my GA the past 2 years, but the number of conference titles I watched her win at A&M Commerce and then got to coach her to a couple here at WT, she was just one of those ones you got a championship meet, and she came through. So she kind of held things over on the women's side for us for that first year. And then we had to start doing some recruiting. And one of those girls that have been with me the whole entire time is Mallory Sheehan. And she did a great job this indoor season while doing nursing in her senior year. She really came through and had a runner-up finish for us at the Lone Star meet in the 3K. So a couple of those athletes that have been highlights to coach from a performance standpoint.
Questions for Jake Krolick? See some alumni out there, see some current runners, see some current coaches. Here we go, Kent Bell.
Yeah, Coach, for somebody that's kind of ignorant on cross country, could you give us the distances, please?
Yes, so when we run during the regular season, typically our men are running 8K during the regular season and at the conference championships, and the women are typically running 5K. When we move on to the championship season, the women run 6K, which is about 3.75 miles, and the boys run 10K, which is 6.2 miles. And in cross country, your top 5 runners, they score for you, and then your 6 and 7 runners can displace runners from the other teams and make their score go up a little bit. So we always hope to have that depth there to give us a better 5 runner, and also be able to hopefully displace the top 5 runners on the other teams with those 6 and 7 runners.
And WT is one of the rare schools that has an on-campus cross-country course. Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about the range?
Yes, another reason why I came to WT, in that we actually have hosted the NCAA regional championships twice since I've been here, and we are at an altitude of 3,600 feet here, so that definitely puts us at an advantage over the other Lone Star schools that aren't at altitude. And that was one of the struggles I had when I was over in East Texas, where we would go to altitude here, either in West Texas or in Colorado, and have a little bit of a struggle there. So definitely an advantage to have that kind of course, not only a home course, but an NCAA level course. We spent this past fall rebuilding, as the new vet school was built on our old start line. So I spent a lot of this fall not only preparing the teams, but also preparing a new cross country course with the helps of all different groups on campus to make that thing go. So we got it off, and our boys did a great job, and Zeke won in front of the home crowd. So I know Michael was on the gator actually watching it all go down. So he got to see that with the best view in the house. So that was really, really exciting for us to go out there and have a new course and get that all going, and then have the boys make nationals and Zeke win. So definitely a big advantage for us to have that course here.
Questions for Coach Krolick? There we go. Stanley Schaefer.
Hi, Coach. I got in a little late, and you might have already covered this subject, but who is your runner that was always running, leading the pack, that looked like Forrest Gump?
That is Briggs Whitlake. So Briggs is he gets comparisons to Jesus, Post Malone, and Forrest Gump. So but he's our Briggs Whitlake. That's who he is to us. That he is one of the most passionate and committed runners that I've ever met, and it's a true testament to why he went from essentially, I think, being a linebacker or lineman in middle school to being a cross country All-American. His passion for this sport and becoming the best runner he can be is pretty evidence to why everyone sees the guy they refer to as Forrest Gump running all around the Amarillo and Canyon areas.
Well, he was always leading the pack. I thought that was real neat.
Oh, it's awesome, and we got another year or two with him, so you'll get to see him doing that a little bit more.
Okay, who's got a question for Jake? Jared, are you waving your hand there?
Yeah. I don't mean to back up, but I was fascinated as Ken introduced you, and he mentioned that it sounded like he said that you, as a student, started a cross-country program in your high school?
Yes, so there had been talks of it for a couple of years to get a program going. I was playing soccer at the time. Had no idea what cross-country was, but things had started to go a little better on the track for me. So I talked to our indoor track coach and talked to her about getting cross-country going. And we barely had 5 people to fill out a team on both the boys and girls side. And one of the really, really cool things was this past year, that team finally won a state championship in New York. So it's about 11, 12 years later, but it's been very cool to kind of watch that from afar, to see something that was really gave me an opportunity to move forward is now providing opportunities for a lot of other boys and girls in Arcade, New York. So been very cool to follow that progress, knowing that I had a little part in getting it all going.
Cool.
Jake, in following up on your response to Stanley's question, cross country isn't one of those sports that someone grows up and just starts doing. It seems like a good majority of even your top-notch competitors come from other sports. It's like in middle school or high school, they go out for cross country for conditioning, find out they like it or they're good at it, and stick with it.
It's somewhat natural selection. If you would have saw me as a freshman in high school at about 4'10" and 86 pounds, I wasn't going to make it too far playing baseball or ice hockey or soccer, the sports that I grew up playing. So call it natural selection if you want, but it kind of narrowed me in. I realized I could outrun everyone when we were doing warm-up drills or conditioning drills. And you run a track season and you realize, oh, there's something different here, where everyone else that was getting bigger and stronger were having a lot more success in football or hockey or soccer, whatever sport they were playing. And for some reason, running just seemed to keep getting better and better for me, and less and less people were keeping up with me. So I moved in that direction, and eventually was a 3-sport athlete in high school, doing all 3, and just wanted to keep on getting better. That was kind of the key to it. I knew that if I worked hard enough, I'd just keep on getting better, and that kind of set the tone for things moving forward.
Now, you're the first coach of a sport, and we're focusing on cross country here, although you do distance for the track and field program, that's not currently in session or in season, that's been suspended. But your kids work out year round. So how do you stay in contact? How do you direct training sessions right now?
So all of our cross country runners all run indoor and outdoor track as well. So I can tell you, I'm the one coach that's competing from the first day of classes until 2 weeks after the last day of classes. So I'm really enjoying this because I feel like I'm the football coach or baseball, soccer coach right now, actually getting an off season to do some recruiting. So it's been an interesting time, and it's actually gone pretty well in those regards. But in regards to keeping up with our athletes right now, technology is amazing, and Garmin watches are awesome. That they all upload online, and we have what's called a Strava group. So Strava is a running app which uploads all of your runs that come off your GPS watch. So I get a weekly outline of every single mile that my kids run right now. So running is something that you can do solo. We have to do a lot of it over summer anyway, because we got to be ready to compete in August and September. So we're very used to that and training on our own. We spend a lot of time in our own heads a lot, just running. So we're even prepared really well for quarantine. So we get a lot of time on our own anyway. So this is just a great way, Strava again it's called, that allows me to watch every single mile and get a little weekly recap from all of my athletes. So
That's incredible. There's no more cheating the system.
No,
Hanging out saying you ran 8 and you only ran 4.
Exactly. So it's a good way to kind of, for me to hold them accountable, also for them to hold each other accountable. We've got some Strava team challenges. So I split them into 2 groups essentially. So we have like a group 1 and group 2. Whoever's group runs the most miles that week, whoever's group maybe climbs the most elevation that week. So creating some ways for them to get a little competitive with each other, some individual titles as well that go out there. So right now we don't have races to compete in. So giving them some process-based challenges to, as I always say, it's a 2 to 3 year process for our younger runners before they can really be ready to compete. So we've got some competitions that are truly process-based right now that allow me to celebrate that, give them some shout outs as a group to who's really committed towards what it takes to when we do get into August and September to really be ready to compete for us.
Now you mentioned charting elevation changes. You come from Pennsylvania, Edinburgh, where there are things called hills out there. Where do you go in the canyon area to where you can do more than just a gradual incline?
So we've got a couple places that are rolling dirt roads that are in the surrounding Amarillo area. We go out towards Claude, which is about 50 miles away from here. There's some good roads that we can get on, and I can drive along with the group in one of our vans. So we try and get out there. It all depends kind of what the national and regional courses look like. So if they're flat tracks essentially on grass, we don't spend as much time working the hills. We'll spend a lot more time just running on the typical plains and flatlands of the panhandle. But we do have the canyon right there if we do need to go and run some hills. So we have the best of both worlds. We got a little elevation. We got lots of dirt roads, a cross-country course, gravel trail on campus. We got some amazing facilities that make WT, I argue, the best place to train in the state of Texas. So,
questions for Jake Krolick? There we go. Paul Sweetgall.
hey,
All right, Jake had a question for you. Well, you mentioned the fact really that running is a year-round process, and with our people not being able to compete this spring, how will that affect maybe your training plans for the summer as you prepare for cross country?
So really what we're doing right now is when everything happened back in March, it really threw a real kink in things, and there maybe was a little bit of panic, or what do we do now? So some people went home and we didn't get a chance to run for a while. They didn't know if they could go outside, and some were able to kind of keep on a pretty steady track. Really what we've decided to do right now is spend the next 6 to 7 weeks to kind of get back in that routine, that rhythm through the end of May. And then we're going to take our typical week of transition where we do very little to no running, and then just pick back up on things June 1st as if we are going to prepare for a typical cross-country season. So right now, it's just about figuring out amidst this chaos and uncertainty how to get back into those routines, form those good habits, embrace that process again, and know that we're going to have something to really work towards when we do get to June and start preparing like we will have a cross-country season.
Questions for Jake? Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, Jake, and you may have touched on this, but how are you staying in touch with all of your runners? You know, especially with technology. Are you guys doing Zoom meetings? Some of those things, I know you can track them with the Garmin watches and that system that I can't remember what it is, and I don't want to say it wrong. but how are you keeping up to date with them?
So yes, outside of Strava and me being able to do some individual tracking there, every Monday I'm meeting with my men's team and we're having a Zoom call every week, and that gives us a chance to just kind of catch up with each other. Some of the guys will joke around with each other, just being glad to kind of see each other. And then on Tuesdays we have our girls call as well. So that gives me an opportunity just to check in with them, remind them that, hey, things are crazy right now. Just go over remind them of some of our values and what's important to us, what we're working towards. But more so just to kind of touch base with each other and just to get to see each other. That I know that's just a very big piece. Just staying connected right now is so important to us, and gives me a chance to make sure they're all at least getting out of bed in the morning. Some of them wake up and they're still in bed, but by the time they get done with the call, they're a little bit more active and going. So just keeps things going. We're also doing grade checks with all of our kids too, where they're sending me screenshots of their blackboard every single week. So trying to stay on top of things there and make sure that we're taking care of things in the classroom as well.
Jake, I know one motivating factor as an athlete is knowing that your coach can walk the walk, so to speak, as opposed to just talking the talk. And you definitely have. Obviously, the cross country and the track as a student athlete, but you still compete as a marathoner. I'm guessing a lot of people are familiar with your work and your Olympic trials and all that, but tell us a little bit about your personal running history.
Yes, it's been more interesting than ever this past year or so. So to give you a little background, like I mentioned earlier, I was a walk-on at Edinburgh University. I was never really expected to be a big contributor there or anywhere that I ran at. I honestly, a lot of the athletes that run the times that I ran in high school, I sometimes overlook or are really not recruited by most universities. But I was given the opportunity to go run at Edinburgh, and like I said, it was a great fit for me, given that opportunity to really just see how good I can be and chase an impossible dream. Found out that the further the distance was, the better I got. My coach sometimes said, we should put you in the New York City Marathon rather than send you to conference or regionals, because he just knew I'd run much better for the team if we did that. So ever since 2009, 2010, the marathon's kind of been the big thing that I was looking forward to. So I remember right before I went to Adams, I watched the Olympic trials while I was still in Edinburgh and just said, hey, one day I really want to be at the Olympic trials. So that's kind of set the tone there, that there was, even though college running was going to be over in 2013, I knew that there was going to be running was going to keep on going after I got done with college at Adams. So kept on going, ran some good half marathons. In 2016, the B standard for the Olympic trials was 105 even in the half marathon is a B standard to qualify for the marathon trials. And I ran 105.25. So close, but not quite there. And getting a little bit further away from college, I knew the further the distance went, the more I'd have to move myself up in racing distance. So really tried to spend the next 4 or 5 years getting used to the marathon, and ran 224 to 226 4 or 5 times over the past 2-3 years, and decided to give it one more go and really start running a lot of miles. And between September and December, I probably ran 10, 12, 22 to 26 mile runs on Sundays. Got really familiar with the roads between here and Happy. There's a lot of dirt roads there I spent a lot of time on. I was running between 90 and 120 miles a week most of the time. And that led me to Houston, which was the final day, January 20th, 2020 was the last chance to qualify for the 2020 Olympic trials. You needed to run 2:19, 0-0, and the race was going really well. I was on 2:17.30 pace at halfway. Fell off a little bit and gave one last push the last mile and ran 2:19.00.14. So 14 hundredths of a second away from making the 2020 U.S. Olympic trials. So a little heartbreaking, but sometimes that's the way athletics rolls, that someone's got to be that first guy out. So for now known as the fastest guy not to run in the U.S. Olympic marathon trials right now. So
And
that's kind of a little something on my running career.
With the Olympics being pushed back, that may have salve the wound a little bit, but the reality is 4 years between Olympics, and a lot can change in that time.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to reopen the qualifying window and make another shot. They already did run the Olympic trials in February, so they've already kind of selected that team. But really, it's the same mentality as I had kind of back in 2007 when I first got started with running cross country and missed the state meet by 2 or 3 spots. It's really I remember crying after that race, essentially, knowing that I worked really hard for a summer and a fall and missed the state cross country meet. And fast forward 13 years, probably the only other time that I can remember that I really broke down after missing that. But it was the same thing. There's 4 more years of training now that I've got to get back to work, and kind of taking it easy the last couple months, but ready to kind of get back to it. But one of the big things is that a lot of people have been interested in my story since then, just really excited about Houston. And what I just told a lot of my athletes is that's just a fraction of a second of the story. That there's 45,000 miles worth of running that have been done since 2006, 2007. So there's a lot of things that have happened in that time that have all brought me to WT. So even though that's a little bit of a heartbreaking story, all those runs, all those days, and the wind and the snow and whatever other elements I've gone through have all brought me here to WT and have this opportunity, which means a lot more than that starting line in Atlanta would have meant. So.
Who has a question for Jake?
Casey.
There we go. Owen.
Okay, I'm going to go first, Owen, because I'm controlling everything, so I get the right to. I've heard kind of some up and down kind of roller coaster after you finish the race. Can you kind of touch on that story? Because I've heard that, at one point they kind of said, yeah, you were good, and then you got a call back or something like that. Can you kind of elaborate on that story some more?
Yeah, so after all the heartbreak and struggling in Houston right after the finish line, I kind of started to come to grips with the fact I wasn't going to go, but I did submit an appeal to USATF. And so on about 48 hours after, on Tuesday, I got an email from the Atlanta Track Club, which was the host of the trials, that said that I had qualified, and they'd sent me all the information on what I had to do to book flights and hotels and all that stuff and get my gear and all that stuff. And less than I told everyone, told my family, friends, the team, put it out on social media, I'd made it. And then all of a sudden, I got an email an hour later from USATF saying there'd been a mistake and that I'd missed by 0.14 of a second and that I wasn't qualified for the Olympic trials. So all of a sudden you're taken right back to the finish line in Houston. So it was like, Owen, actually, this was his words. You get an hour after a race to kind of be upset about it. But Owen, I got 2 hours, Owen. I got an hour in Houston and then another hour back here in Canyon after they rejected me again. But that whole part really sparked things. I got a lot of interest from like Runner's World and Let'sRun.com, and was the hottest topic, I guess, in U.S. distance running news for about 24 hours. So I got my 15 minutes of fame, I guess, or so they say. But I was interesting for the first time in my life, I feel. So at the very least, it gave me a little bit of a platform to share this story with people, and to know that, I wasn't a stud out of high school. I was a walk-on, but just a grinder. I was very, very much a blue-collar runner, and be able to kind of share that roller coaster of a 10, 12-year period with a lot of my athletes and other runners who have kind of followed me over that journey.
And when you think that minute amount of time, a fraction of a second, over 27 miles, you're talking 12 inches.
We're talking probably the distance that most of us are from our phones or our computers that we're watching this on. So maybe I should have dove. I don't know. Cut a corner different. I'm not exactly sure. But at the end of the day, it was almost a 6-minute PR for me, which is a pretty big deal over even in a marathon to run 6 minutes faster almost. So if there wasn't that arbitrary standard of the Olympic trials, I would have been ecstatic. I'm a 2:19 marathoner now, and no one can take that away from me. It's just there's an arbitrary standard that says who's an Olympic trials qualifier and who's not. And unfortunately, I'm on the other side of it for now. But there's 4 more years and hopefully another opportunity in 2024 to get after it, as long as health holds up and life holds up, and we get everything back on track after this COVID-19 situation. So,
Owen, did you have a question earlier?
Yeah, thanks. Can you just hear me? I've played around on my phone. So Jake, you good? First of all,
We've
it's
got
good to
you.
be back, even temporarily. I'm taken aback at how American everyone is sounding, and I apologize for my accent now if you can't understand me. So first of all, good to be back. Secondly, Jake, like, how do you show your kids that you're focused on them in race weekends? Like, you're so invested in your own career, and that's super inspiring. And everyone, even in the UK, understood that there was a 2:18.001 guy. But if you're like going all weekends during indoor and doing your own 25-mile training run on a Sunday when it's the kids' long runs as well, what do you do that puts them first as part of the responsibility to them, their welfare, and making them great, as well as chasing your own dreams?
Well, I think that while we shared some good runs while you were here, some good long runs, and maybe one or two tempo runs, I think a bulk of the training I do is on my own, or that anything that I do with the team for the most part when I do get out there and run, it's to try and help them along. There may be an occasional long run where I may be a little bit selfish and say, hey, I'm going to finish this one up on my own, and everyone else heads back to campus. But that is maybe once a semester or something like that. But a lot of the runs will happen at 8 or 9 o'clock at night on the track or on the gravel trail around campus when everyone else is getting ready for bed, or will happen at 6 a.m. in the morning when we're out on the road or something like that. Go out and get 20 plus miles in for a long run while we're on the road, while everyone else is grabbing breakfast or sleeping in a little bit and enjoying the time outside of campus. Or maybe it's during the race, just the sprinting around the course is a good workout to be able to get my daily running on our competition days. So really a lot of the work that I do for myself is kind of behind the scenes, that, you know, you're in the office a certain number of hours each day, and you're at 1 or 2 practices each day. But I really try to make sure that my running isn't taking priority, and I don't really stress it. I'll go to some meets here or there, or road race once or twice a semester, and that's really the only bit that maybe I take selfishly, in stepping away from maybe missing a Sunday long run, or missing a Friday afternoon session after a Friday morning tempo. But I try to make it very, very clear that they are the priority, that they are my future, as much as I love my own running. That it's the athletes that come first every single day of the week.
Cool. Sounds good. It's just, yeah, juggling, not being a pro athlete, you have to juggle, and everyone takes a different approach. So I wanted to hear yours.
It's just you got to find time to get the work done, whether you're me or you're one of our athletes or anyone else in this sport. Is when you get that free 60 minutes to hour and a half, you gotta take advantage of it.
Fantastic. Anyway, I'll hand over to someone else.
Questions for Coach Krolick? Paul? Paul Sweetgall,
Okay,
go
am I
ahead.
on? I'm on.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're good.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot here, but it's great to see that Owen and Jamie are both on the call. And if they don't mind just taking a minute to tell us how they are, where they are, what they've been doing since they left WT.
Jamie first.
Sorry, Jamie.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can.
And I'll just start my video. I just had it off. There we go.
You go.
There he
Good
is.
morning.
Yeah, it's not nice to hear everyone's voice again. Like Owen said, it's funny how you live there for 2 years and everyone's voice sort of you get used to it, and then you come back and wow, it's very different. So yeah, I came back from WT. I finished in 2017, and shortly after I came back, I ran a PB, a PR for 5,000 meters, around 14:21, and that was a big breakthrough for me. It was my UK club record. I beat that by 0.1, and that would have been a goal for me for my entire running career. So that was a sort of huge breakthrough for me. And then unfortunately, my next goal was then to to make the British trials the next summer. And since then, I've been suffering with hamstring tendonitis. And that's been the last 2 years now. It's something that I've been struggling with. I'm now haven't run for 5 months. I had a cyst removed from my leg in December, but still very much running's a big part of my life. I became a team manager for my club, and so I'm trying to help with athletes at my club, and I pay very close attention to all WT's results. It's great to see the 11th at cross country nationals in December, and some great results indoors as well. So yeah, it's always nice to see how the kids are doing, and also Jake's results, of course, as well. I was watching his splits live of his 2:19 race, and yeah, I remember being very excited, that really feeling like he was going to get there. But I'm sure he'll give it a real good go in 4 years' time as well.
Jamie, before we move over to Owen, why don't you tell Buff Nation where you're living right now? And it sounds like you're across the water. How this COVID-19 craziness is affecting you?
Yeah, I'm in London now. This where I grew up, and I came back here. I actually work in US tax. I work with Americans that have moved to the UK. So I'm now IRS enrolled agent, and potentially looking to move back to the US in the future. But, for now, career goals are to stay here. But yeah, I'm working from home now. I think almost everyone in London works from home, apart from essential workers. And I'm sure Owen will explain. He's one of them. He's working on the COVID government response. But yeah, it's been very difficult. As team manager, we had a big race coming up in April. One of the biggest club races in the UK is it's a road relay. You have 12 guys on your team, and we'd planned that all out. We had probably our best ever team, and then the week before the race, we found out it was cancelled. And for the foreseeable future, definitely no races happening here. But we've had there have been some virtual races going on here. We had a virtual national relays, which was everyone ran a 5K and put it on Strava, and that was a great event last year. So they're planning to roll some more of those kind of events out to keep everyone engaged in the sport.
Very good. Owen, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. I see that it might just be me on my internet. So I'm just going to scroll back so I can see my face. So thanks, Jamie. Yeah. So Jake and I, we're actually still pretty close. I think we're both would describe it as we're no longer really kind of coaching athletes, and we're now definitely friends that we kind of have relied on each other at times to kind of carry on and add a bit of perspective of outside our own running lives. So since I left WT in May 2018, so I just, after 2 years of trying, got that All-American on the track in Charlotte. But my main aim for running had always been to break 14 minutes for 5K. So I went to WT as a 14:06 runner, and I managed 14:12, 14:14, 14:16, and a couple of kind of tragic 14:40s. So I was still incredibly motivated after I'd left WT to carry on running. That being at WT, it wasn't really, I didn't see my career ending when I left WT, so I just carried on. I still had a coach. I had this very strong amateur athletic club around us that we have in the UK, so I went back to my old friends and training. And after I got a job and I'll touch on this as a moment, as a UK civil servant, my training is just running to and from work. So I run with a rucksack, and I run 5 miles into work, 5 miles back, drop off my rucksack, and then do another 3 or 4 miles. And that's my daily training. And equally on a Sunday for the long run, I'll get up early and travel across London to one of the really great parks that we have, 7 or 8 mile laps in somewhere called Richmond. where we still have deers and we have lakes and things like this. So get up early, meet friends, and make it really social. So running is a massive part of my life still. And last May, I went to travel to Belgium for basically our Stanford, or kind of one of our kind of similar big meets like that. And actually, finally after doing it, after waiting 2 years at WT in Texas, I managed that sub 14 whilst still working, whilst, yes, running with a rucksack with, I think everyone, any coach would look at my training and just go, how on earth has that been possible? And really, it's just like Jake has done. You just put running around your life. And I just remember being so relaxed in that start line, and it was almost just definitely going to happen. So off the back of that, I qualified for the World Qualifying Championships, or World Championships qualifying. That was really great, that you had to run sub 14 to do that. And that was in August last year. That unfortunately I had my own heartbreak, that I got tripped up at 3K and came in last in that race. And Paula Radcliffe, who is probably our most famous runner, so most famous marathon runner, she had the marathon world record for many, many years until last year. And it took a Vaporfly shoe to beat it. Anyway, she essentially blamed me for bringing down another top quality runner, and spent a good 5 minutes criticizing me live on air, live on like free to view television for my running style. So that was fun. Anyway, so 5K had success. I went again in 2017. I ran my 10K PR in San Francisco. So I ran 29:27. And the final year at WT, I just got nowhere near running that same time. And it took a bit more perspective and a bit more kind of me saying I wanted to be a runner in the UK. And I've actually broken that twice now. So in February, I ran 29:11 on a road 10K, and it was totally unexpected. I'd been a bit ill, and I've been working really hard, but I just kind of went and ran it. I was just super positive, and I'm now incredibly grateful. I took a chance that weekend and raced, because I don't know when I'll next be able to race, because of obviously everything's been cancelled. But as everyone's kind of wondering what their life is kind of on hold, that I kind of feel like I'm at the center of this hurricane, that I work for the British government's Department of Health, that I'm in a role that is trying to encourage and foster international relationships between other countries. So particularly the advanced economies, and get them to share information, and then also share the critical elements of PPE, so the ventilators and the dialysis machines and the face masks that are really critical to life, that most countries, including the UK, America especially, because of how dire kind of New York is, are really cagey about the numbers, about sharing things and sharing equipment that they might want in the future. And it's kind of my role within the government to try and unlock really difficult conversations. So actually it was WT has helped there as well, that during interviews I'm able to rely on kind of the diplomatic areas and way to engage with people from different cultures that I learn in Texas. And I think Darren Flowers would kind of chuckle knowing what I do, that I think he loved seeing the interactions between his imports and kind of the local Texans who, hadn't always kind of flown abroad. I think that's helped me enormously in my career. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm up to, really. That I'm currently in a hotel room, that our hours at work are pretty insane. So they're putting us up in a hotel. So I was at work at 6 o'clock this morning, which is why I'm now on the call, that I finished work about an hour ago.
Well done, Jamie. Owen, that's incredible. And you have certainly followed up your time at WT here very well. You're to be commended, and Buff Nation is proud.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Jake Krolick, or maybe we have questions for Jamie or Owen? Okay, Daryl Lovell.
Yeah, Jake, Houston was my first marathon. So one of the things I noticed was it wasn't taped off. I got two questions. One, how did you deal with the tangents there, or how do you deal with the tangents during the marathon and making sure you're not overrunning? And then two, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, trying to get faster, ways to get faster.
So, I was running a big pack. There was about 10 of us that were on that Olympic Trials Chase pack. And so you really just move as a group, and you try and just kind of keep your head up and know what's ahead of you, know approximately where the big turns are. But yeah, it was more so just running in that group. So maybe there were some tangents that weren't perfect, some turns I could have done better. But with the race that I was running, it was very much just about running with that pack, working together, and some of them would have said creating art together. That was a very cool experience, and people that I didn't know beforehand, but will very much remember vividly for the rest of my life. But that was kind of my regards into taking turns and tangents, kind of just what the group was doing. In regards to just getting faster, it's getting out the door every day. Things aren't always going to be perfect. And there's going to be some workouts that you're just like, how the heck am I going to run that fast come race day? When I'd struggle to run 5:30 to 5:40 pace for 2 or 3 miles, I'd try to tell myself, how are you going to run 5:18 mile pace for 26 miles? You just got to get out the door each day and understand that that's the big win. And like I said, the big thing for me was running 2 hours or more further very often, running 22 to 24 miles almost every Sunday for my long runs. So that was the real big commitment. That was the changing factor. I'd never done that before. And you just got to be running every day. That's really the key to getting faster. And then do a little bit more, a little bit faster as you can, as you progress.
Jake, you talk about running 22, 24 miles every Sunday, once a week. Recovery. When you run that far, your body has to recover some. I know you're trying to build, but how long does it take you before you get out and do a semi-long run again?
So I think I've thought about this a lot lately, and running isn't the very hard part of what we do. If you think running is hard, you're in the wrong sport. Running is the easy part of what we do. If you don't think that, then you're not going to last long as a runner. But I think the hard part is recovery. The hard part is decisions and choices, and that's those are the things that I emphasize to our group. In that those are the challenging things: making sure you eat enough, making sure that you sleep enough, and making sure that on the easy days when you want to go and run, that you make sure you run easy enough on those days. So recovery is the name of the game. If you don't go out and take care of that, you could have had an amazing race, an amazing workout, but if you're not focused on recovery and you're not making those tough choices not to be a typical college student, you're not going to make it very far. You're going to end up hurt. You're going to end up overtrained by the end of the season and not ready to run come nationals or the conference season. So you just gotta buckle down, get to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock when you're really training. You gotta make sure you're eating more than you can see. I know that some people see me out to eat at dinner when we're out at Back 40 or Joe Taco, and I'm just piling away everything and anything I see, and like where does it all go? So it's just you gotta be taking care of those things and taking care of your body. That's a big thing.
Last call for Jake Krolick. Any more questions? Well, this has certainly been a fun and enlightening last hour together. We appreciate Owen and Jamie joining us for this as well. Buff Nation, thanks for joining us with your questions and enthusiasm. Jake, thanks to you, not just for today, but for the last 3 years, what you've brought to WT Athletics.
Oh, no problem. I know my girls are waiting on me right now to get on another Zoom call. So it's like perfect time to jump on that next one. So I just appreciate you having me here, and looking forward to seeing what we do in 2020. So
it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun this Thursday when we have our next Zoom call. We're going to be going equestrian with Amanda Ellis, head coach of WT's equestrian program, and certainly one of the more successful year in and year out that we've had. So until then, thanks for everyone being here. Go Buffs. Stay safe. Goodbye, everybody.